you future debt-free millionaires. That's right. We are going to make you debt-free millionaires, or just debt-free, or just a millionaire. But it's up to you. You get to decide if you want to be both or just part of what we teach. We're going to teach you all sides so you could be a millionaire with a ton of debt, or debt-free and also a millionaire. So this is all up to you. So we're going to be teaching you in this personal finance course that we started. This is the first section, the first season of Debt-Free Millionaire. So we're excited to get with you. Thank you so much for joining us. Okay, so for today, we're going to talk about real estate. This is what everyone likes to talk about when it comes to finances. Why? Because this is an investment for the future. Now, we're not going to go into too much of the nitty-gritty. We're going to go into the top layer of real estate. This is where we're going to talk to you about different types of real estate that you can get into and build up to as you go. Now, this is a very, very lengthy lesson in the book. This is week 7, day 4 of our Debt-Free Millionaire book, personal finance book. So I'm going to talk to you a little bit about real estate. Real estate is basically buying and selling houses, or buying and selling property. Now, real estate property is usually what we go over because it encompasses everything. Most of the investment properties that are out there are actually, for normal people, are residential properties. So I go out, I buy a house, I rent it out to someone, and that's the way it works. But there's also other ways of making money off of real estate, especially when you are just starting off or you don't have much money. Now, there are so many different topics I could go into, so I'm just going to hit a few of them. One of the big ones is actually debt-free flipping, which debt-free flipping is actually a book that we're going to be producing. It's already produced, but while we were getting ready to send that out to publish it, everyone that was looking at it said, hey, do you have a personal finance course? Because a lot of things that you're talking about here, people need to understand what they are. So you need to have a personal finance course first and then have the flipping. And we were right there. We agreed with what they said. So we produced the first book, which will be released fairly soon. And a few months later, Debt-Free Millionaire Flipper will also be coming out. So let me get into some of these things. We're not going to just focus on flipping. We're going to focus on everything, especially the least expensive. So you can invest in property, very expensive or less expensive. You can do big properties or you can do small properties. You can do buying up properties. You can also do what we call wholesaling. Wholesaling is basically when you find a property, a great offer, a great deal. You sign it to be your property, like as if you were buying it, and then you find someone to buy that contract out from under you. Basically, what they're going to do is you're going to buy it, say, a house that's meant to be, if it was fixed up for $200,000, you're finding it for $110,000. Well, that's a great one to start flipping, but you don't have the money to flip. So what you can do is say, I want to buy that house from you. I'm going to sign on the dotted line that I will buy this house, but you're going to have a contract for them that basically says, and this is most of the time for sale by owners. If they have a real estate agent, a lot of times the agent won't want to do this because they're supposed to. Their whole purpose is to find the best deal possible. But you think you can actually find an investor to buy this house and to buy it from you, even though you signed for it. So the reason why this could actually become shady is if you don't let the seller know that you're actually assigning it to someone else. You need to be upfront and honest with them. And a lot of times they're willing to do this because they want a certain price. And if you can get anything above that, they're fine with you making that extra money. Because maybe they were sitting on it for a long time. Maybe they just haven't reached out to the right people. Maybe they don't have any connections because they don't have a real estate agent. Truthfully, they should be talking to a real estate agent. But if you find these great deals or people that are not thinking of selling, but you actually want to buy the house and they're willing to sell it to you, these are awesome deals that you can find on your own. And when you sell it for an extra $5,000 or an extra $10,000. The great thing is the seller's not going to be paying that money up front. Most for sale by owners, they do not want to pay a real estate agent, which is why they're doing it by themselves. If they're doing it by themselves, they don't want to pay any additional costs than what it's already going to cost them. So you say, that's great. That's not a problem with me. I'm going to make the buyer pay for it. So the buyer is going to come in and he's going to make the deal with you at a set rate for this house, which is about $5,000 or $10,000 more because you found the property. Now remember, it's signed to you, so that buyer cannot get that house unless you sell it to them, unless you assign that contract to them to buy. So if they're not going to go through you, they're not going to be able to buy the house. Now, if you just find a property and you say, hey, investor, I found this great property, you bring the investor in, a lot of times that investor is going to say, why am I going to pay you when I could be paying these people? I'll pay you $1,000, where I should be paying you about $10,000 if you had sent it under contract beforehand. Now, again, be very upfront and honest with the seller because they want to make a certain amount. You want to make a little bit of money on top of it, and you're going to bring the right people to them. They're going to be fine with it because they're getting exactly what they want from that house. Now, say that you do have a little bit of money, or say that you did wholesaling for a little bit and you made a little money and now you want to put it into an actual property. The first property to look into is land. Land is the least expensive property that you're going to find because there's no improvements on top of it. If they were to put improvements on top of it, that land would then be valued at a higher rate. Now, when I say it's the lowest, you can actually find property that's really expensive, but put a property on it and it becomes more expensive, which is why I said it's the least expensive because it doesn't have any capital improvements on it, which means a house or any kind of building or such. And then you can take that land. There's 3 different things you can do to it. One, you can make it into a permanent situation, storage units, building a property or a business on top of it, or residential houses on it or such. So you can make capital improvements on it. You can use it for just the land and sell it as an RV park, a campsite, a storage unit. You put a fence up. It's not a capital improvement, but just a fence up. You put a fence up and you let people park in it, and they pay you a monthly rent to be able to park their RV or their car or their container unit. Container units are very inexpensive. Buy a used one, put it on that lot. You now have a storage unit. So there's all different things you can do with land for very little money, and that money then gets funneled into your pocket or into your business where you're going to roll it over. And we recommend that you roll it over into your business. So from that land, you say, okay, now I have a bunch of land. I've made a bunch of money. I want to go to the next level. The next level, for us at least, we say, is flipping houses. Flipping houses is where you buy a house, usually a distressed house. Actually, that's the whole purpose of flipping. You buy a distressed house, you fix it up, and then you sell it to someone. Now, people might say, well, it's a nice property. You could actually rent that out to someone and someone could buy it from you. Well, here's the thing. You're most likely going to be flipping houses on a mortgage. And we're going to tell you later on how you don't have to actually pay with a mortgage after your first few. And we'll get into that in just a minute. So you take your flipped house, you sell it, and you make some money off of it. Well, this also opens up one other door. Oh, no, I'm not keeping up with my pictures, am I? So here's your land. Yes, there's all different types of land. Also know when we're talking about land, watch out because your land actually might be zoned. It might be set by the government, set for a certain type of building to be put on it. Land can be agricultural, which means no properties are on it, no buildings are on it, except for maybe the farmer's house. You can have residential, where only houses can be built on it. You can have commercial, which means only commercial buildings, not industrial, but not also residential. You can have industrial, which means no commercial, no retail, and no residential, and definitely no agricultural, especially because of the contamination that could be in the soil. There's all these different things and all the different ways that land can be purchased and used, but you need to do your due diligence, which means you have to look into it beforehand. This is the house I was going to show you when it comes to house hacking. House hacking, I'm jumping in. This is when I was talking about flipping. I could buy this house for a little, clean it up, make some improvements on it, and then sell it for a whole lot more. Because this is a really nice house that's really aged, really old, and probably just needs some TLC. Now, before I go into the next step, let me go into flipping houses. Flipping houses, you need to understand how you're doing this. And I'll tell you a little bit more of my story in the future, but make sure you're getting into a good area that's still increasing in value. If you're getting into a place that's the prices are actually decreasing and you buy a house to sell it, you're going to be rudely awakened when that happens. It might have actually been the reason why people were moving out. If the community is all rentals and you're trying to sell the house to an owner, they might not take it. You're going to be ending up selling it to an investor, and they're going to undercut what you want. They're going to give you less than what you want because they're going to be investing in renting it out to someone else. And you could do renting, but you want to be able to take that money and roll into the next house. Again, we'll get more into that as we go. The next one is this guy. This guy, it looks like he's actually fixing up his own house. Well, here's the thing. He bought a duplex. He fixed up one side and he moved in. While he's fixing up the other side, and then you're going to put rent, and then when he's done with that side, now the first side he went into, he did everything quickly. So there's still things that need to be improved. So he's going to move into the new side that's clean, completely done, move into that side temporarily, and he's going to fix up the other side. House hacking is where you can actually live in the house as you're fixing it up. It works great with duplexes because you're living on one side and you're working on the other. But you could also work in a house, especially if you're single or even married without kids. You move into a house, you fix up the bedroom, maybe the kitchen, and then you move in. And the whole time you're fixing up the house, any free time that you have, you fix up the house until all of a sudden you haven't paid any rent for the last year or the last 6 months, however long it took you to fix up the house. And your business took care of all the expenses. Now, check with your local real estate agent, your local attorneys, real estate attorneys, because you want to make sure that your local municipalities, your local government will allow you to do this. Every place is different. I am not your real estate agent. I am a real estate agent, but I'm not yours, and I'm not in your area, so I don't know exactly how they have it set up. But this guy is able to in his local area, so he's living on one side, he's fixing up the other. Or if he has multiple units, he's living in one, fixing up the others, and then he'll move out of that one and fix up that one, because it used to be the best one, but now it's, because he fixed up all the rest, it's actually the worst one. He'll move into one and fix up that one, all while putting renters in the other ones, and they're paying all the bills. That's a house hack. There's other ways of house hacking. We'll get into it later on. As I said, each of these topics is actually like I could write books on each topic. I mean, not just one book, but books. I'm going to be writing one book on each of these as we go. But I just want to let you know that there's so much more information about house hacking. You can do a lot of different things with house hacking. Look it up online. I mean, there's plenty of articles on it. We'll give you the surefire ways of making money off it because we've actually experienced it. We've flipped houses for a long time. We rented houses. House hacking, we've done a little bit of that in a different way. You know my personal story where we lived in the house, we fixed it up, and then we sold it. That's also a type of house hacking. But we actually did pay the mortgage personally to fix it up. We could have actually had the business do it if we had a business set up for it. But that's where it becomes shady, and you want to talk to a real estate attorney when it comes to that. Now, the next one to think about is this. That's a really nice house. You know what? I bought that house when it was nice and distressed. And you know what? I want to rent this one out. I don't want to flip it. I don't want to sell it. I want to keep this one because I have very little owed on this house. And I can make a ton by renting it out to a family or to someone that wants to live in the suburbs. So rental properties is actually the largest investment structure in the United States for millionaires. Now, a lot of the millionaires, or even multimillionaires, are going into commercial properties. These are larger. There's a lot more reasons for it, and I'll get into that in a second. But when you're middle class, even lower, higher class, these are great places to get into because you can buy a house for like $20,000 in some metro areas. Not California, but say Kansas City. Last year, or a few years ago, before COVID, I could actually buy a house for $25,000. It would take a lot to fix it up, but I could, and I could turn it into a rental or I could flip it. So buying a property and being able to make a living off of it is actually quite easy. We're going to talk to you about that in just a minute, but not yet. Because the next thing we're going to talk about is commercial properties. You know why commercial properties are so great? This is the last one we're going to talk to you about with types, because next we're going to talk about going into credit and how to buy these properties. Okay, so commercial property is amazing because when it comes to a residential, the renters inside, they're not showing off to anyone. You might have things written into the contract of how they have to treat the house, but there's no way to actually make sure that they're going to treat the house as well as they can. Commercial is different. Commercial, they're not going to fix it up for themselves. They're going to make sure it's well maintained and everything's taken care of because their customers are coming into their commercial properties. They want their customers to see how great their property is, or their customers are not going to come back and their business will fail because of that. So when a commercial real estate developer comes in, they usually build the shell of the property. So say you have 3 retail locations in this one building. You built the shell, you put all the electrical in, but you stop there. And the reason is because every person that's going to lease a space is going to want to customize their area to their needs. So they'll go in and they'll pay for all the interior capital improvements on the property. You don't have to pay for it. They have to send you the plans and you have to agree upon it before they do it. But you don't have to pay anything for an amazing looking property at the end when they're all done. You get to approve everything that they get to do when it comes to improvements in your property. And so when they move out, because every retailer does move out at some point, you have a fully functioning storefront that someone else used, and another person might come in and say, hey, I want the same storefront. I want everything to be the same. I'm not going to tear down any walls. I just need paint. And they will paint it themselves. Commercial property is amazing when it comes to it, but it is amazingly expensive as well. It is a lot more expensive to buy commercial property than it is residential, meaning homes. Okay, so commercial property is a great thing to get into. Here's the thing that you need to know. This is the biggest thing that gurus will talk about, is buying houses on good debt. And yes, there is a difference between good debt and bad debt. And the reason why I put up air quotes is because good debt is classified as money that you spend and you're making money off of. So you're making more money on the money that you put in than you originally took out. So say I take out $100,000 and in the end I made $200,000. That's good debt. Say I put in $100,000 and every month I make $2,000 over my mortgage for that property. That's good debt. But here's the problem. Here's where a lot of the gurus, these people that go on YouTube and show you big, expensive airplanes or really nice cars or all the girls around them for all the guys that they're trying to attract into their business. They say, hey, you can do this with no money down or very little money. And what they do is, just like you would go out and look for distressed property. They'll go buy that distressed property and they'll fix it up, just like you would. Then, instead of selling it or renting it out or just renting out, they go back to the bank and they say, hey, so I bought this for, say, $150,000. It's now worth $200,000. I would like to refinance it. But I want to be able to take all that money out. I'm going to pay off my debt, but I'm going to take the other, I'm going to pay the debt of the previous mortgage. So I'm going to take $150,000 off it, pay off the other mortgage. I'm going to take that other $50,000 and I'm going to pocket that, whether it's for your company or yourself. And the bank's going to say, great, it's worth 210, 200. I'm going to give you this amount for it. And you could take the rest of that for equity. Then they take that money and they buy up, say they made $50,000 on refinancing. They then have enough for 3 houses. That would be $45,000. But say they need a little bit of money to put into fixing up those houses. Okay, so they bought 2 houses at $15,000 a piece. Again, it's really hard to buy a house for $15,000, but please bear with me in this example. So they bought 2 houses at $15,000 a piece, means they had $20,000 left over. So they spent $30,000 on new houses. They have 2 left over, and they have a house that's completely 100% refinanced, meaning they owe 100% on that house. So then they have these 2 houses. They're They put $150,000, or sorry, they bought them for $150,000, and they put $15,000 in as a down payment. Paid 10%. So then they take these houses and they fix them up. They're now valued at $200,000, and they do the exact same thing for both houses. They pull out $50,000 from this one, $50,000 from that one. They now have $100,000. And three houses that are now mortgaged to the hilt. Means they still owe $100,000 or 100% of what the value of the house was. But now they have $100,000. And they've done this all in about 6 to 9 months. Then they say, hey, I've got $100,000. I'm going to buy 3 more properties. No, I'm going to pay 4 more properties off this money. So $100,000, $15,000 on each of the houses times 4. That's what? $60,000. Means they have $40,000 to fix up these 4 more houses and turn them into rentals. So then they have, oh, look at that. I have 4 houses. I get $50,000 from each of these. Now this is the theoretical problem with this. I'm going to do great. Okay, they're thinking they're on cloud 9. They're still working on these 4 houses that they purchased. They haven't finished them yet. Halfway through, 2008 happens. Actually, it happened in 2007. What happened? There was too many houses on the market. House values, prices went down. They tanked. My house, I had 2 houses during this recession. This is where I learned a lot of my information. I learned it from hard knocks and doing the wrong thing. So that's a great way of learning if you have the mindset of, I'm going to learn from these things. So one of my houses went down $50,000. The other house went down $20,000 during the recession. Now, if I could hold on to those houses, it'd be one thing. But again, I lost my job and I had to rent out one of them, and I was actually making $100 extra every month. It wasn't much, but it paid the bills. The other house, and luckily there was no real expenses such as like a furnace going out. Actually, there was one time that we had a major thing and it cost us about 10 grand, under 10 grand. And by that time we had enough built up in our savings account from a new job and from the money that we made from that house each month that we were able to pay for the fix. Again, I don't have any pure numbers because this is just one of my stories of what I've experienced. The other house, I owed $50,000 under, and I had to subsidize my renters in there because rent also dropped down as well. Because values of houses dropped, the rent dropped as well. And so you find renters very easily because they weren't buying at that time. So what happens to John, the person that bought up one house and then 2 houses and then another 4 houses? So right now he has 7 houses, all mortgaged to the hilt, and he's working on 4 of the houses. Well, what happens first? Well, okay, I'm making money off these houses, and I don't have renters on these houses. I'm just going to be foreclosed on those 4 houses. So those 4 houses, the banks take back. Well, the bank didn't just take back, they actually sued them for some of the money extra. So they took all the money from the company. Okay, so I still have these 3 houses. John's still doing well. He has these 3 houses. All of a sudden one decides, I'm not going to pay. And I'm not going to move out. I'm going to squat here. They're called squatters. Maybe he does move out and you can't find new renters. So you have 2 houses that you're paying for. Or so you're paying for 3 houses. You have 3 mortgages on these houses, and you only have 2 houses paying for those 3 mortgages, and you can't make do. So one of these houses is going to be foreclosed on. You still have 2 houses. You're still spiraling downhill. The next one goes away. Finally, John just lost all 7 of his houses. You know what happened during that time? Anyone with money, and this happened this time too, and we actually purchased one of these houses when someone had to get out of the house. Everyone with money purchased all those houses from all those people that had to short sell the houses because they bought with the guru's understanding. This is the same way that Dave Ramsey bought his houses and went bankrupt, and also Robert Kiyosaki. Now this is history. They hopefully learned from it. I know Dave Ramsey learned from it. Robert Kiyosaki still goes under a lot of the same ideas as he was going through before, but probably a little bit more, with a little bit more understanding and a whole lot more money behind it. But people that come into this industry, there are a huge percentage, huge, well over 60% of the people that get into investments this way lose everything. Lose everything. And here's the thing, they don't just lose all those houses and all the money that they had. If they didn't create a wall between their personal and their business, they lost all their personal money as well. The companies could actually sue them if they pierced the wall between their company and their business, meaning if they paid their personal expenses from their business. That's what happened. But also, they also lost their credit score. So those banks said, you know what? You didn't pay up. You're not going to pay up the next person. We're going to tattle on you. You're going to tell everyone about it. They're not tattling. They're just telling the truth. So they go to the credit bureaus and say, hey, you need to dock this person. And your 700 to 800 point credit score just went down to 500 for the next 7 years. Which means if you ever want to buy real estate, you now have to buy it from personal investors, private investors. These investors, instead of being at 7% or 8% that a bank would give you, they're charging you 12% interest. So that spiral becomes downhill because you listen to the gurus who try to make you buy off of a credit card or off of credit. They're trying to make you sell and buy houses using money that doesn't actually exist in your pocket. It's somebody else's money. And when you can't pay up that person, they're taking that money back. Remember one of the ways that with land that you can also do and make money, the third way that I didn't mention earlier, was actually that you can lease it out to someone. You can give them the option to buy, and they're paying a monthly amount towards buying the property, and then sometime they're not able to pay up. And just like the banks foreclosing on you, you can take your property back as well. Now, some people like to do that. That is not underhanded. It is actually part of the law. If someone doesn't pay up their mortgage, they lose their house. If someone doesn't pay up for your land, they lose the land that you sold them, and you take it back. Any capital improvements on that land, you now claim. Anything that, any increase in value, you then claim. Anything that they gave you month to month to pay so they can have the option to buy is now yours. So this is why, instead of doing this, you want to do it this way. You want to do it the debt-free millionaire way. And the debt-free millionaire way is easily explained. And because I'm running out of time, I'm actually going to give you the short version. And that's basically, when I started off, I bought a house. It was built in 1913. I bought this house, and when I sold it, I bought it for, I think, $40,000. I put $50,000 in it. I sold it for $120,000. So that's $90,000 I spent on the house, and I walked away with $30,000 for the house. Now, $40,000 was in a mortgage. I mortgaged that much, and actually I took a loan out from a family friend. So I take this family friend's money and I give it back to them. I gave them back $40,000. I then paid all the debts I had for fixing it up. That was $90,000. Sold it for $120,000, so I walked away with $30,000. I said, hey, this is great. I can do this. So then I decided, hey, what if I bought the house next door? Now, I had gotten to know these people. They were very nice people, but I took 10 steps into their house, and I had 100 cockroaches running in every direction. I go into their kitchen, I open a cupboard, and they scattered in every wall, every shelf in there, inside and out of their food. Their cereal boxes were full of cockroaches. It was disgusting. So I went to the owner of that house and I said, hey, I want to buy this house for $15,000. And I will actually find a place for those renters to move to. But you need to let them move out to break your contract, and you need to let me buy that property from you. And they said, well, why are we going to do that? I was like, if for nothing else, you can't keep them in squalors like this. And if the city found out, you'd be in a lot of trouble. There'd be a lawsuit on top of everything else. So I'm willing to take it off your hands and fix everything up. So they agreed upon it. They got $15,000. I had $15,000 of my own money now, because I took it from the last house, to put into this next house. Okay, so everything was working great. I was going to spend probably about $10,000 more that I had to borrow back from the person that I just paid off. So instead of owing $40,000, I was going to borrow 10,000, and then life happened. This is why nothing is a guarantee when it comes to investing, but our principles are surefire. They are set in stone. We instead, this is exactly the time when I had my third open heart surgery. A bacteria attacked my heart, and I had a pig's valve in there and a bovine valve, a cow's valve, and it attacked those organic valves, and all of a sudden I had to get 2 mechanical valves put into my system. I now have 2 mechanical valves, which you can hear it. Those are 2 mechanical valves inside my chest. Because of that, I had to learn how to walk. I had to learn how to stand. I had to learn how to do a lot of things. I couldn't drive for the first few months. Everything was put on hold. Because everything was put on hold, I still wanted to build this house or fix this house because I was still paying electrical, I was still paying gas, and I was still paying water. And I was also paying property tax on this house. So I want to get rid of it as fast as possible. So I actually brought in contractors. In the end, I spent, of all my money, I think it was $70,000 to $75,000. I'm trying to remember. I have to look back. This is a while ago. And I sold it for about $100,000. I made $25,000 to $30,000. I made basically my money back, possibly even lost a little bit of money. Because of that, I learned also that most of the times it's even better if you can have a partner in these circumstances. But also I learned that if you bring in contractors, they're going to charge basically 10 times what you would actually charge yourself for just the materials to get these projects done. You need to be able to learn how to fix up a lot of these things. If you need a plumber, great, use a plumber because that's something that's could destroy your whole house. Electrical, same thing. Drywall is for aesthetics. So you want to use someone that can actually fix up your house when it comes to that. But all these things cost money. Every contractor that you bring into the house is going to cost you money. I had a handyman friend that helped me out with a lot of things to keep the price down because I couldn't do much because, again, my chest, because of my operation. But the principle is sound. If I had purchased the first house, walked away with $40,000, put that into the next house, and actually spent just $10,000 over what I was thinking of spending, that would have been $40,000 I put in the house. Again, the $30,000 was mine. I only spent $10,000 plus another $15,000 on repairs, so it's $25,000. I would have walked away with $75,000. That's great. I would have walked away with $75,000. I could put into the next house. And I keep flipping houses until all of a sudden I can buy 2 houses. Then I fix both of those houses up, but one stays a rental while the other one stays a flip. And I continue to flip that until I can buy another 2 houses. I go from one rental to now two rentals. And we keep going up, flipping, and I can buy another one. And that becomes a rental. And then I keep flipping. This way, every year I can flip enough houses to buy 1 rental house. So every year I have a new rental house. Maybe every 2 years I have a new rental house. In 10 years, I could have between 5 and 10 houses that are all rental properties and one more. Let's say 8 to break even, to compromise. So say I had 8 rental properties. Now here's the thing. All of these are paid off. There's no debt on them. Because all these properties are paid off and they're worth $200,000, you now have $1.6 million in property that you own free and clear. And actually, the last house, I said you had 8 houses. Let's say you did 4 houses in 4 years and you have one that's being flipped. All debt-free, all worth $200,000. This took you 4 years. You now have one. You have 200,000, 400,000, 600,000, 800,000, and the flip, which will be worth another 200,000. You're now a millionaire with 5 houses, 5 rental houses, completely free and clear, sold, paid off. You don't have the stress if someone moves out. If someone moves out, great. You're not paying a mortgage on that house. You're not even really paying utilities until the next person moves in. You have nothing. Your insurance takes care of everything else. You are paying for insurance on that house, but no mortgage. You are in an amazing spot. In 4 years, you become a millionaire. All those people that are leveraging their houses, they might have 20 houses, but every house is their equity, their value that they actually own of that house is 0. It might be like 1 or 2% because the bank owns the rest of it. Are they millionaires? No, they're not millionaires. In 4 years, say even 8 years, maybe you got a rental every 2 years. In 8 years, you're a millionaire. How great is that? This is why the debt-free millionaire process works. This is why, I can't guarantee it, but the principles are sound. If you follow these things, you will become a millionaire. You will have a stronger, more self-reliant way of living life, and you have less stress. So thanks for joining me on this debt-free millionaire journey. I am out on a convention right now, so tomorrow's will be a small amount on the on the market of real estate and what's happening there. So there's a lot of things to go through and a lot of things to learn, because if you're going to buy properties, you want to know how the market is. You want to know how your local market is, as well as the national market. You don't want to buy houses right before a recession happens. You want to buy a house after a recession happens, when all the prices are the lowest that they will go. You want to be ready with money to put into those houses as well. So we will teach you all these things as we go. Thank you so much for joining me on this podcast, and we will catch you tomorrow. Thanks again. Take care. And yeah, that's it. Bye-bye.